Oh, hello there, wherever you're listening, however you're listening, joining us live on the Reality After Show YouTube channel or joining us after the fact on the archived episode. We love you all the same. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your night after Survivor with us here. My name's Gabe Ortis, joined as always by producer extraordinaire Bobby Goodsby, Wayne Memmott, and we have a very special guest tonight, a very special guest and a very dear friend of mine, the one and only Teeny from 47. Teeny, how we feeling tonight?
I am feeling fantastic. Gabe, I love nothing more than to hear you talk about Survivor. And what a great episode we have to discuss in front of us.
Oh, a fantastic episode. And be sure to stick around. We might have another special guest joining us, one you do not want to miss. So don't go anywhere in anticipation of who that may be. So getting into tonight's episode, it was a very interesting starting point, I thought, because we come off of last week's episode, which we see the three people who have pretty much been the main characters of the seasons so far in Blue Sophie, Rizzo, and Savannah handedly on the bottom. I mean, like as on the bottom as you could possibly be. Everybody at the first merge vote all voted for Nate except for those three. And those have been the three people we have far and away gotten the most screen time and narration from. So the entire opening of the episode was kind of just this like awkward damage control of like everybody needs to kind of check in with Rizzo, Sophie, and Savannah. And like Teeny, as somebody, and I don't mean to, push any buttons off jump, but who had been left out of votes before when we played on 47, can you just give some insight onto how it feels to come home from a tribal where you were blindsided, but you weren't the one that went home?
It's like an interesting like combo of feelings where for me it definitely was anger and frustration and like humiliation because I hated being left out of the vote. And so you want to be resentful of the folks who like didn't include you, and you want to know everything that happened. You want to know why you weren't included on everything that happened. But you also, I think there's no moment more in the game where you feel more in danger than being left out of a vote. The first time it happened to me was Keyshawn. And all I remember thinking is just like, if I thought I knew what was going on and I was that in the wrong, like how much else do I not know? How jeopardized is my position in the game? And so you feel almost like this lease on life that you're still there, but this disorientation of being so wrong about where you were at, and a complete panic in trying to figure out how to put the pieces together again. And it's interesting to watch people's different approaches to composing themselves in that reaction and to being able to like pivot in the moment. And I think all three of these people did a really impeccable job of it. I thought Rizzo's conversation with Jawan especially was like incredible. Yeah. He did not have even a second of anger taking place, or he really did a really wonderful job of just like being grateful for still being there and wanting to move forward, which is, I think, especially at this point in the game, being blindside, which let's be clear, at this point in the game, I was still in the know. I think he did a great job of just like being gracious and curious and wanting to continue to make those relationships.
And the conversation that he had with Savannah in that same opening of the episode where he's like, we cannot be bitter. We cannot be upset. Like, we need to put on nice faces and move on and try to reintegrate ourselves. That vision is like to have that presence of mind in that moment where it's so easy, just like you said, to be bitter and to be disoriented and to be angry and to be confused, to be like, we can't go at these people, even though they just in this, tiny world of Survivor in any given game you play, even though they just wronged us as much as you possibly can without voting us out of the game. Like, we need to go be their friends right now. And I think that was also a good general read, but particularly I think it was a good read on Savannah. I don't know, but my assumption is that Savannah really needed to hear that in the moment. And like that to me is such a good mark of a great Survivor player. Somebody who can be in a really disorienting situation, like being left out of a major vote, the first merge vote, and still have the state of mind to say, like, we need to take a breath. We cannot be bitter. We need to go be nice. We need to go. I think a word you used, Teeny, was great. Curious, to just be like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen next? I'm still with you. Like, it's all good. Like, I thought that was impeccable. But Wayne, when you see Rizzo moving through the early parts of this episode, like, what comes to mind for you?
I mean, first of all, like, maturity that has not been edited to be shown from Rizzo
Yeah.
up until this point. Like, that is not, how old is he?
Like 25, I think.
Yeah, 25, 26. Like, to have that maturity to like be like, yo, I'm this like braggadocious, like full of bravado, maybe false bravado sometimes. Like, I'm gonna go out and do whatever, but to be like, no, chill, dog. Like, to be able to do that is very difficult at a young age. And it's like, oh man, this might be part of that winner edit, like, I don't know if he wins, but it's like, oh, he's here. This is part of that. Like, this is the first story where it's like, oh no, Rizzo's going to be here probably till the last episode of this season.
Yeah. No, I thought that this was like a big main character energy episode for both Rizzo and Savannah, and we'll get into that in a minute here. Stop me if I'm missing something, but I feel like the next big thing that happened in this episode was an idol hunt, a very brief idol hunt, and Christina, who's been rather absent from this entire season, finds an idol. And she gets a moment where she finds an idol. There was literally like 2 minutes dedicated to this idol hunt, which is maybe the shortest idol hunt in the history of Survivor. And
I almost missed it. That's how short it was. Like, I went up to grab a drink and talk to my wife, and I was like, I gotta go watch a show. And I got back and I got to the very end of this. I was like, oh man, the whole thing happened. All right.
And she's got an idol, and she's with Steven and with Alex, who are with her when she finds the idol, and it's a straight up idol. It's just, hey, you found it and you get to keep it, and that's it. Bobby, what implications do you think this has on the game? Like, I mean, not only her having one, but also the fact that it's just a straight up idol that she found.
Here's the thing. I think that this will somehow get back to Soph in one way or another. And I think that's where we see the knowledge is power take over. I think that this is giving us this information because one person that found out that information that was part of that 3 is Alex. And who is Alex probably the closest with because of his original tribe? Soph. And so I think in some way, some context, that's going to get back to Soph, who's probably the last person he should tell. But I think that information is leading up to what knowledge is power is going to be, because I think Soph will realize she can't take Rizzo. They're going to need Rizzo's, especially since she kind of put her eggs in that basket. Yes, we saw this episode. She tried to play multiple fields, tried to play multiple cards to keep herself in the game, which she did a very good job of. But I think that that's a stepping stone to what we will see down the line.
That's a great shout. And I'm going to be honest, I forgot Sophie had knowledge is power this whole episode because she wasn't really in this episode except for the very beginning. And obviously we get to the point where she's a moon. Wayne.
I was going to say, I wish they would like have on their chyrons. They do it in Australian Survivor where it's like, this is the advantages that they are holding right now.
Recently, right?
Yeah, I wish they did that up there, or even if it wasn't their names, because they don't want to keep flashing their names all the time, like just a little marker that's like, this is what these people have to remind us, because I think it matters, for the strategy of it all. Yeah, for the viewer.
And I agree. And when they were really getting crazy with advantages and twists and everything early in the new era, they did do that where they would say what people had. And I think they've kind of reeled back, but I agree that would still be very helpful, especially for players in the game that aren't a big part of the episode, but do get shown. Like, they would have been great for Sophie, just as a reminder to everybody, hey, she has this. It's not going to play a big role this episode, but just keep in mind, she does have this. No, that's a great shout, Bobby. I didn't even think about that. But the fact that Alex is a piece of her finding this idol, there is that web that could be weaved back to Sophie and she could use it. Man, that would be good. So then go ahead.
I also just want to say about this. I miss like old traditional idol hunts, but what I don't like when they're like contrived like this, because I want them to just, I was thinking about this. Like, why aren't they just like wandering through the woods? Well, because there's no reason for them to wander through the woods because they don't have flint to make fire half of the episodes. So like they can't like go collect firewood. And there's only so many times you can walk to the water well or, you know, whatever. So like they couldn't put out idols and no one's going to find idols alone. And that's like the most powerful thing. And that's the most interesting thing for us to see as a viewer is when this like unknown idol comes in and totally swings the game and someone that everybody thinks is on the bottom plays it for the right person or at the right time. And the whole power dynamic of the game changes.
To that point, you know, last episode, everybody knew where both idols were at. So it's like, you know, there was no element of surprise there. And the way that Rizzo handled it was still really exciting, I thought. But it is something that's a bit lost.
Yes.
So then we get into the challenge. This challenge is one of my favorite challenges ever for no reason in particular. It's an awesome challenge named Chimney Sweep. For people who are not putting the puzzle pieces together, this is the one that I won on 47 to win individual immunity. It was awesome. And I went against Teeny in this challenge. And I didn't even think about that during the episode until just now.
Wow.
Teeny, give the people some insight into how difficult this challenge was.
Well, more difficult for some than others, obviously, as you witnessed
of anybody out there.
Well, so I have the smallest feet, but I also have a thing called Roman toes, which means that my pinky toe and the toe that is penultimate to my pinky toe, the one that's right next to it, are smaller. There's a steep drop off. So like that specific part of my foot that is going to be on those footholds is actually like really small in a way that is detrimental to the game. So yes, I had small feet, but there was also a disadvantage there in my specific anatomy. But in general, it's just like, yeah, it's extremely painful. And honestly, for me, the toughest part of like any one of these endurance competitions is really just the mental part of it. You're really hot. For us, it was at the end of a really grueling and long and intense challenge that we did. And so for me, it was like getting out of my own head was the biggest obstacle, and like fighting off the pain, the feeling of the pain on your feet. But yeah, it was really hard. And I definitely made a lot of, I remember being next to Gabe, and you always talk about how just like I was moaning and groaning in agony the entire time.
Well, so when we got to that phase of the challenge in 47, and for people who don't remember, it was me, Teeny, Saul, and Kyle who were competing in this portion of the challenge, the final portion of the challenge. And I was like, Saul has zero chance. He weighs a ton and he has straight hobbit feet. Like if you've ever met Saul, then you know Saul has massive feet. And I was like, Saul does not stand a chance. Kyle also has huge feet, but unlike Saul's, they're like long and skinny. So I was like, you know, he could be competitive in this, but I'm not worried about him. Teeny was the one I was the most worried about. I was like, Teeny has the smallest feet I hear of anybody. That's going to be the person to beat. And we get down to like the second foothold.
That's not true.
Third foothold.
Okay. If you're talking about like me showing signs of weakness,
yeah. So we get past the first phase, and and in my head I'm still thinking like just beat Teeny. And then I hear Teeny, who I think was in the post next to me, start going just like and I was like, this isn't even that hard yet. Like, whoa, like, am I gonna win this thing? Like, and that's where I had the belief of like, oh, I have to go win now. Like, if Teeny is already kind of shaking, then like now I got to go win. And then Saul drops and Teeny drops right after him. And then me and Kyle make it all the way down to the end. And what I did this challenge was I made Jeff force me to move down to the next rung every time. So when he said time to go, I wouldn't move. And I would wait for Jeff to be like, Gabe, you have to go now. Because I was like, if anybody falls on that transition, like I'm going to let them fall before I start moving.
Yeah.
And then for the last transition down, Jeff said, he was like, you have to go when I say go this time. If you don't move when I say go, you're going to be eliminated. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. And then he looked at me to make sure I was going. So I tried to game that one as much as I could, even though it didn't make a significant difference.
Not gonna lie, you guys had me looking at my feet this entire time we were talking about. I'm like, how would I do? Like, not very well.
6'3", Bobby, not great.
That like the size of your feet actually really matters at all. I do think it like I think it's like
all tolerance.
Yeah, it's all pain tolerance and like endurance and strength. Like and willpower. And like Gabe, you were in a pickle that round.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't know it, but
What do you mean?
you
Could've
the
gone
start of
better.
that episode is us trying to go for you. I don't know. I just am like,
No, you're right. Yeah, it's the you saw Genevieve conversation.
yeah. I just think awareness of like your position in the game actually does like drive a deep strength in people. And we saw that tonight in Savannah. Like Savannah, like there is, and you see it. Like I just remember you even see it in like, you could just see it in people like Jawan, like you can actually see him just like fighting every second to like actually hang on. And there's just some people who like don't have that same insecurity about their position in the game, who I think like the pain tolerance combined with that can make you drop a little bit easier.
No, that's a great point actually. Just like that extra kind of hit of adrenaline to just be like, this is life or death right now, you know? And we go through this kind of what I think is contrived split tribe situation where half of the people, 5 of the 10 people left go to one side, 5 of the 10 people left go to the other side, and you're all competing as individuals, but whoever is on the side that wins, that has the individual that wins, they are safe from tribal. Bobby, what do you think? Because it's not the first time we've seen this. It happened on 47, just with a different challenge. But what do you make of this game format? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you indifferent?
For this challenge?
Just for the format of having 10 people left and putting them into 5-5, and the last person standing wins immunity.
I don't normally like it. I like it for what it gave us for the drama for this episode, because this could have been a yada yada episode had this not played out. So I try to be optimistic whenever it comes for each season. I don't like it naturally as a normal twist, right? And it's or format, I guess you would say. Because I don't think we're this far into the game. We just got to the merge. Why do we need to be splitting people up again after we just had 1 week of a full merge? Like, it doesn't make sense to do it this far in. And then to have half the tribe safe and half the tribe not safe, it really doesn't add to the dynamics of where people are. Like, and I've always said this, and I've said this every single season. I said it on your guys' season. Whoever is on that losing group, if you have an idol, 1000% always play that idol. I think this might be the first time that we've seen it work out for the person that they don't use it in this scenario.
And we're going to get into that. I'm very excited.
I'll just be honest with you. I'm shocked that he didn't use it.
Teeny?
Didn't Sue have one and she got away with it?
Oh, yeah. Well, Sue did have an idol. Yeah, Sue had an idol.
That is true.
That's a relevant point, but yeah.
Yeah. So we see the division happen. The losing side of the challenge is Yellow Sophie, MC, Rizzo, Sage, and Jawan. Very, very bad scenario for Rizzo. He is the sole person alone on a voting block of people that all blindsided him last week when Nate went home. Very, very bad for Rizzo, but he has the idol in his pocket. And you have to assume he's going to play the idol and be safe, and whoever he throws a vote on is probably going to get voted out. But then Sophie, Yellow Sophie, presents an interesting idea to MC. And she says, hey, I'm going to throw a vote on Jawan just in case Rizzo does play his idol. And you can't tell Jawan that, but I'm going to do that so that if Rizzo plays his idol, whoever he decides to throw a vote on isn't the person that automatically goes home. And if it's you, MC, then potentially you can be safe. Now, MC takes this information and she goes to Jawan and she says, I know that you're upset that I played my idol last week because you thought I couldn't trust you, that you were going to vote out Nate like you said you were. Well, how about this? Sophie's throwing a hinky vote on you just in case Rizzo plays his idol. What do you make of this move, Teeny? Is this a good move for MC to build trust with Jawan? Is it fine in a vacuum, or is it just bad all across the board?
I just think it's bad because it didn't seem like it was really fully thought out. Even as she was talking to Jawan about it, it felt like she didn't even really understand the implications that it would have. Because she even said, she was like, yeah, like, and then, you know, the votes might end up on you and I don't want you to go home, but I also don't want Sophie to go home. And it's like, you also shouldn't even be saying that part. Like, if you're going to come to him with this information, you should probably have a much more clear idea in your head of like why you want to do it. But honestly, Gabe, I'm really curious to hear what you think about it, because the whole time I was watching it, I was like, I just want to hear other people's takes on this, because it also is like, why did Sophie feel the need to have to tell MC that at the same time? Like, sometimes it's like ideas that will work, like that was a good idea and it like would have played out, like can just work if you do them the same way that like having an idol you don't need to tell people about. Like sometimes information is the same thing. Like you can just hear it, receive it, or think of it on your own, and best keep it to yourself, or at least have the patience to like think through what you actually want to do with it. And I feel like there was just a deep impatience in the game here, or like just a black and white thinking of like, oh, I broke your trust here, so I want to provide you with this new information, without actually reading through what that would reveal about her as a player, and how that might get back to another person, especially on a tribe that's as small as 5 people.
5, right?
Yeah.
That's my biggest problem with this whole thing, is that there's no room for secrets. There's no room for deception. There's no room for a game of telephone where, well, I heard this from them, who heard it from them. It's 5 people. It's 5 people. 2 walk off and 1 comes back and says, hey, this guy just told me this, or what, it's like, that's like, there's no room for error on that. And it's harder to lie. And that's like the most fun part about this game, is the lying and the deception. There's less room for it with this, Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the best play would have been exactly what you said, Teeny, which is just do it. Don't tell anybody about it. Just do it. Just throw the vote on Joanne, and nobody knows if it's you who did it, so you can play around with hiding the fact that it was you who wrote his name down, and also B, you don't leave any room for it to get out there. Now, I would say from Sophie's perspective, at least everything that we've been shown, she probably had no reason to believe that MC would do that. Like from episode 1, we saw MC go to Sophie and say, hey, the majority on Hina wants to vote you out and they want to bring me in as the 4th, but I don't want to do that, so I'm coming to you with this information. So we've seen from the very early days of this game that those two have had a connection. So Sophie was probably like, if there's anybody out on this beach that I had to be stuck with, MC is like the best person for that to happen to. But what I think we've seen an overarching theme of Sophie's personality in this game is that impatience, like just down to the way she speaks. Like she's always like very eager to speak up. She's always very eager to say something. And I think that we saw her be very eager with this move of like, I have this idea, I just got to get it out. Someone's got to hear that I'm thinking about this, And I think that is like a pitfall for a lot of Survivor players. And there are some things, to your point again, Teeny, that are better left just unsaid and held in your mind. And it's tough when you're out there, because when you're playing the game, it's like you want people to know you're playing the game. That's one of the best parts about it, is when you go up to somebody and they have that like, oh my God, are we really going to do this? Like that reaction is fun, And so I can get it on a human level. What I also think is strange was MC going to Joanne and saying like, this is happening.
Yeah.
And I think that you need to focus more than anything on getting out alive. Like getting out of a weird tribal situation like this, getting out alive should be the priority. And if you're in a place where you have a plan that's in place to go get out Rizzo, the primary plan, and somebody came to you with a secret backup plan, like all of those things benefit you. All of those things benefit you. And the page that everybody is on is benefiting you. And once you decide to share that information with somebody who's a target, all of a sudden those plans don't benefit you anymore. And you can't predict where they're going to go. So when I saw her walk up to Joanne and share that information, my first thought was like, you're taking the power out of your hands. Like you're giving the power and the information of what's happening tonight to somebody else who is a potential target that isn't you. And like that is where I took a lot of issue with it, is if you have information nobody else has, you should want to keep it that way for as long as possible. And wanting to work with Joanne long term, if that's your goal, that's fine. I get that. But it's about getting out alive.
It also is like, you have a situation here where Sophie, who you have a history and relationship of trust with, is coming to you to include you in a plan, which is an inherent show of more trust.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
the plan that she's explaining is, as you said, a backup to another plan that has both of you pretty much safe. And as Sophie explained to her so like articulately, like this is if everything goes haywire, just so we know for an insurance policy, like we have Jawan out. And as MC has gone up and like shown us that she's aware that there's trust now missing between her and Jawan, she should be excited about that. She should feel, one, I'm getting the trust of like my close alliance partner to be included in this plan. And two, this plan works out for me both ways it goes down. If Rizzo goes out, perfect. I'm also not the one who threw the vote on Jawan, so I don't have to take that heat for it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, and three, like if it does happen that Rizzo plays his idol, I'm in on the plan. I know what's going on. We can get Jawan out, and there already wasn't trust there. But instead, she tries to do this like reparation, and it obviously backfires completely. And it's an overplay in a situation like you said, where you need to just sometimes chill out, hear what you're being told, and like make really focused decisions that aren't going to cause more chaos.
And perhaps the edit didn't show this to us, or perhaps there was some reason that we didn't see in the edit why this wasn't an option for MC. Why not try to shift the Hinky vote to Sage? If you really want to keep Jawan that bad, why don't you tell Sophie, hey, instead of voting for Jawan tonight, throw your vote on Sage. Like, I want to keep Jawan. Jawan will work with us. He's an important ally to me. Like, let's just get Sage out instead. Like, who cares, you know? And it makes me think that there's something we missed in the editing there, because that feels like too easy of a decision to make to achieve everything MC wants to achieve in this tribal council without having a potential backfire on her, which is exactly what we saw. I'm curious, Bobby, what do you make of this kind of information dump that MC gives to Jawan?
I mean, it was a lot, right? And it was a lot to throw on anyone. Honestly, why do it? It doesn't. I understand when you're at the part where you have 5 people and there's not a lot of places to hide, you're trying to use any information you can against those other people. But all of you are in a situation where you have someone that has a known idol there that should be something that you should flush out. That was on the other side of the vote a week ago. And the fact that the vote went completely away from that in like one fell swoop, when he had the balls to just say he wasn't going to play it in general. And like, it could have we could all be talking about Riz flop right now. We really could. We could absolutely be doing that, but we're not, because people went crazy. People got paranoid, which happens in these smaller tribes. And that's the thing that the show loves, right? They love the fact that these people are getting paranoid and going against their better wishes and their better ideas of what they should be doing. The fact that MC at the beginning of, like you said, Gabe, episode 1, went up to Sophie and shared with her that she's on the outs. We got nothing from that storyline. It still kind of baffles me that that was included when nothing comes of that and they end up turning on each other at the very end. So I just think that they should have been smart enough to rise above that situation and work together. I don't think it was beneficial for Sophie to tell MC, and I really don't think it was beneficial for MC to then relay that information. I guess I would say I understand MC was doing it because she was in a position where the numbers are already slim and you got to do what you got to do to protect yourself. But it was still just sloppy gameplay all the way around.
Yeah. And looking at, you know, kind of to put a button on this, Wayne, what do you make of the power that MC and Sophie seem to have at the beginning of this portion of the episode when they split up the tribes versus where they ended up going into tribal? Like, that swing of power was intense.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was that question again?
When they split off into 5 and 5, at the beginning of that, MC and Sophie were at the top.
Oh yeah,
they were the one calling the shots, and by the time they're going to tribal, they're like on the bottom with nowhere else to go.
Yeah, because this is like, and this is kind of one of the biggest, I guess, maybe my critique of the new era is like something that a wise friend once told me that their mom always said is never miss a good chance to shut the fuck up. And New Era likes to brag. That's the same thing. Like everyone's like, I found this idol. Everybody look at my idol I just found.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool. Now you found a useless target. That's all it is. It's just useless to you. And we're going to target you until you play that. And then we can go back to playing the game. And it's like always happening. That's the same thing. Everything was overplayed because they're just trying to talk because they haven't been able to play a game. Really. They're playing werewolf with 3 other friends on a Saturday night at their parents' house in the basement because none of them are old enough to drink. Like they're not, this isn't like, you know, the full on deceit that we're kind of used to, you know, in Survivor. And that's what happened to their power swing is that they over talked, they overplayed. And we must have missed something about Jawan because I just have seen him as like a kind of perpetually on the bottom of the top, you know, like he's just kind of like as soon as they have to get rid of somebody, they kind of all have in their mind that Jawan, and that people keep trying to like actively play with him, and like this episode kind of sort of wreck their whole game because of him. And so and maybe it's something that I'm not seeing or whatever, but
well, and that's a good shot too, because the reason that Shannon goes home is because she wanted to vote out Jawan, and that plan got to him through Sage. And then the reason that MC goes home is because Sophie wanted to vote out Jawan, and that got leaked to him through MC. So it's like having Jawan be the person you want to get out seems to be kind of a kiss of death.
So, but I mean, so then my question is, and this is more for the people that have played Survivor or whatever, is like, is this like, again, overplaying meta? Do people have him targeted as a GOAT that they're not, that no one's going to vote for? Is there like somewhere along the way that they like, even if they haven't said it in the episode, that would anybody be thinking about that? Where it's like, oh, I want to protect Jawan because there's no one going to vote for him to win over me.
Well,
this early, because it's way too early to really plan that. I think
this specific vote and this specific scenario is really circumstantial to a lot of different moving parts that like happened here, and has a lot less to do with like any sort of situation of protecting Jawan than it does Rizzo and Savannah sort of combining forces, relationships that are strong like between Jawan and Sage not wanting to like press too hard about Rizzo because Rizzo's also there, and we can't take anything away from how Rizzo played here. Like this was like incredible work on him, which
huge.
Is preservation and putting it onto MC, which I think is less about Jawan and more about Rizzo being able to get through the round of the title. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more just about the chaos that these two women caused in terms of being sloppy with the information they were sharing. And I think in MC's case, Gabe, I know that this is just a uniquely fascinating part of Survivor for me, and we did a podcast about it, which is like your relationship to watching the show impacts how you play. And MC is someone who famously started watching Survivor during our season, Gabe. So like, I think not having an extremely broad knowledge or repertoire of exactly how to move through certain situations like this does give you a bit more of the bug of like, I just want to play and I just want to like about this and I just like make a move. And there's also the other aspect of like, hey, season 50 is being dangled over all of their heads. So anything that feels safe to them probably also feels unattractive because it's like actively being told to them that they should be making big moves and doing crazy things. And I think that probably loomed large on all of these players, especially the ones who at this point haven't been main characters and haven't gone to many tribal councils. And so all of these factors combine to work together and kind of back MC into a position where she feels like the best thing that she can do is more, when sometimes the best thing that you can do is less.
Is like and I think that's a fantastic point, because so many people who are new viewers to the show kind of get hooked through the big moments of the show, and people who have been watching it on a weekly basis for years and years and years, they get hooked more on like the slow burn of it all, like kind of like seeing all the small dominoes that fall for the big one to fall. Versus a lot of people who discover the show through binge watching in recent years are probably hooked on like the clips that they see on Instagram and YouTube of like these big, oh my God moments, and kind of this, oh, I'm going to hop around through the seasons and just watch all the ones I want to watch that have the most crazy characters and the biggest moves in it, you know.
People
and like,
do that?
Oh, exactly. And like that, I think when those people get cast on the show, find themselves in a position where that guides their decision making, where it's like, I want to make something happen. I want to have that clip. And even if they're not thinking specifically, like, I want to have that clip, it's subconsciously what good players in Survivor do in their mind, is have these big moves, these clippable moments, but those are very difficult to do successfully. And my dear friend and Teeny's dear friend, Caroline Vidmar, always loves to say, I love big, smart moves. I hate big, dumb moves. And I think a lot of new era players like to try to make big, dumb moves because they're like, I'm flipping the whole thing on its head. But you don't realize how many things out of your control need to swing your way for a big move to be a big, smart move. And I think MC did not make a big, smart move tonight. I think that shows in the vote as well. And we haven't even gotten in to the Savannah of it all yet. I actually enjoyed. I thought that was a nice little addendum to this like format that they have of like, what if we take the person that's immune, that won immunity, and drop them on the loser team? I thought that was fun. Bobby, what did you make of that?
Yeah, no, I liked it. I thought that if you're going to have a twist there, I enjoy that twist. I think that her having a vote at the tribal council was going to be interesting, especially since she could hide it the entire time. And then, hey, boom, I changed things right now. I think it was a great move for her not to use it, especially now that she has basically an extra vote throughout the season. But I think that's because Rizzo was safe. And I think that it was very telling to see Savannah's reaction to Rizzo when he's basically saying to her, and I'm sure he said it at some point, that he wasn't going to use the idol because he felt like he was in a good position. If you're someone's strongest ally and you clearly know you're on the outs and that other person you can't afford to go home has the idol and they're saying they're not going to play it, that should be instant like panic mode. Well, at least I have this extra vote. We can use that, you know, in this if we need to at any point. The fact that she didn't use it, Rizzo didn't use his idol, they must have known pretty solidly that the votes weren't going on Rizzo that night. Because I think she would have used that extra vote to save him, which she needs in this game to continue her game more than anything else at this moment. I think that said a lot about Rizzo's spot. Also, and I don't want to get away from the Savannah of it all, but I do want to mention this. Sage was flawless in this episode as well. Yes, not everything went her way, but once again, confessionals, knowledge of where she's at in the game, knowledge of like the gameplay at hand and where the votes are going to fall. Sage was really on it. So I want to give her kudos because yes, she didn't get a big edit in this, but what we did see of her, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and
I love Sage.
I thought Sage was great, and we can kind of get a little bit deeper into her game in just a minute here. I thought the shot of Savannah on the boat leaving the first tribe and showing up at the next tribe, she looked like the Queen of England on that boat.
Dude,
just like
just perfect posture,
up, just waving to people with the necklace on. Like that was like it was like a member of royalty was showing up. I thought the shot was great. I thought she owned it great. And like, how can you not? Like, you know, being in the place she was in versus being in the place she was at that point in the episode was like she was on top of the world.
We even have the hot Grim Reaper in the chat right now.
The hot Grim Reaper.
That was a great line. I don't think it's really her, but it was a great line.
And my favorite moment of season 49 happened in this episode. And it was when Savannah told Rizzo that she had a vote tonight. And instantly you see Rizzo have his wheels start turning in his head. Like as soon as she says that, he goes, oh my God. And he just sits there and he takes a second. And he's just thinking, and like that right there, that's Rizgod. Rizgod was born for me in that scene because he just snaps into game mode and he goes from, do I play my idol? Do I not play my idol? To, oh my God, the possibilities are endless of what I can do right now. And to have that again, state of mind and to be able to calm yourself and just start thinking Like that's a gamer. That's a Survivor player right there. That's RIZGOD, the man, the myth, the legend, Riz God, baby. Like that was such a great moment for Rizzo, and it showed what kind of player he is. Because I think somebody's hit it, maybe before we were on air, but for so long, Rizzo has kind of been shown as like this dorky super fan that like is really into himself, and he's got the corny name and whatever. But this showed like a lot of dimension to his game and to his thinking, and a lot of complexity to his strategy. And I loved that scene. I thought it was great. I thought it was badass. Right away, his wheels start turning of like, I have so many more options now than what I had 5 minutes ago. And he's thinking about how he can utilize that to save his idol and get somebody out tonight that he wants to get out. And that's what he ends up achieving. I mean, it's a complete masterclass. Fantastic episode for Rizzo.
So this is more credit toward Rizzo, but less credit toward. This is another episode that was kind of like, we've said it like 3 times or 2 times already, where it's, boy, it's lucky it worked out this way. Boy, it's lucky you worked out with the tribe where Rizzo's on the bottom with an idol with 4 other people that should just vote him out to flush the idol like everybody has ever done on Survivor. And then Savannah wins the immunity, his really only real ally, who happens to then get this thing that lets her come over and kind of jumpstart Rizzo's game in this like kind of fail situation that gives us this wonderful episode. Boy, they're real lucky this all happened. And, so I'm just, it's a lot of luck that's happening, or, it's a lot of luck that's happening. I don't have enough on the back end of it to
that's
say
also
anything,
Survivor though. Like nobody in Survivor has ever just completely skilled their way through the game. Like
I'm not talking about luck for the players. I'm talking about luck for the television show that we got, the episode that we got. Boy, it's certainly, I'm not talking about lucky that Savannah won, and I'm not saying they fixed Savannah to win so Rizzo has this ally or whatever. I'm just saying, boy, they're real lucky. This could have been a real fucking boring episode. This could have just been straight up and down. They are very lucky. And part of that's on the casting. We've always said the cast is awesome. We've liked this whole cast since day one. I just want as many people to play so that we can explore these like 2-3-1-2 voting block type situations that we see in other versions of Survivor that also make the game fun as well.
So sorry, real quick. I just want to say, just to Wayne's point, I think that if Savannah loses in the immunity, I think that 100% we get one of those yada yada episodes where Savannah's just instantly gone.
I totally agree. Yeah. I want to get into the sage of this episode, but before we do, nice little visitor, the one and only Stephanie Berger joining us here. Season 48 of Survivor, a fan favorite, especially here on the Reality After Show. We love Stephanie Berger. Thank you for the cameo, Stephanie. Hope you are enjoying this episode. Say it again.
Why was her thumbnail me?
What moment is that, Teeny? What moment is that? Can you recall?
That's
hands over your mouth.
100%. I know exactly where that is. That is finding out that we made the merch.
Wow. Okay.
I believe that is. I believe that's drop. That's everybody drop your buffs.
Hell yeah! Awesome.
But
shout
did
out
she pick that, or was that like? That's her choice.
That was me who I put it on the screen, but she typed that.
No, but what about the photo?
Oh, the photo.
That's her pick.
That's her. Yeah.
She put that
her pick.
Yeah. She knew who was on the show tonight. So, Teeny, as many people know, Sage was our alternate on 47. She has been very kind to 47. There was an article that came out where they asked all the players before the game started, what's your favorite season? Sage said 47. Like, she is a 47er in our heart. And I'm curious of, like, because this is the first time we've had you on the show, what have you made of her game overall to this point?
I think that it's okay. Before I talk about her game, I just want to talk about her as a person. Sure. And
you learn, you know how to use it good enough, Steph, that it brought you here. That's all that
matters. I want to talk about her as a character and human on the show, because something about her that I like, that I relate to, is that you absolutely cannot undo Sage from her own gameplay, because she is so herself and her emotions
Yeah.
are tied into it, but she does it in a really measured way. Like, she is, I mean, the whole situation of her reads about being on the bottom of Uli were incredible, because Jawan like wasn't picking up on that the same way I think that she was. And two, the whole situation where, as we talked a lot about how like people were impatient in this episode, I think Sage on her side has like a lot of patience. Like, she had to live with Shannon, who obviously drove her bananas and who she knew was targeting her, and was able to maintain that relationship and wait for the exact right times to strike in initiating the conversations about getting Shannon out. She didn't play too hard. She hasn't played way too hard at all. I think she has
Yeah.
really incredible reads. I think she's doing a really, really amazing job of staying true to herself, when very clearly she feels in some ways ostracized by these people, put on the bottom, discarded by these people. And I am famously someone who had a really hard time being able to like keep composed in situations where I felt on the bottom. So on a human to human level, I'm just deeply impressed by her ability to stay true to who she is, be able to package who she is in a way that is so entertaining for us to watch and to consume. And to do it all while having good reads on the game and making really smart decisions in who she does actually want to trust and align with. Like, I think undoubtedly her, I'm not actually going to say that her and Jawan's connection is the strongest in the game, but maybe it actually is. I think that's a conversation we should be having. Like, is their alliance actually the strongest in the game? Because we saw tonight, like, Savannah and Rizzo ended up on the same side and really helped each other out, but their decisions up to the start of this episode got themselves in really hot water, a position that Sage did not find herself in because of the choices she made and the people she aligned with. And they found themselves in such hot water that like they all talked about like, hey, if I need to go against Rizzo, I might have to. If I need to go against Savannah, I might have to. Whereas Sage right now has an alliance member who is like really extremely loyal to her, who she's playing the game in lockstep with. And I think that's a really valuable thing to have at this stage in the game. So I'm really impressed by her. I'm not surprised at all to see how well she's doing. I think she's an incredibly intuitive person. I think she's playing the game with intuition, but with, again, just like really measured, strategic looks at the game board.
And on top of all that, which I wholeheartedly agree with, she's an entertainment machine.
Yeah.
She is
exactly
so fun to watch. She is funny. She is shocking. She is a great narrator. Like, she has played the hero this season. She has played the villain this season. Like, she is so genuine in a way that like both comforts you and shocks you, oftentimes at the same time. I mean, she is just like this slam dunk casting. It makes you wonder how she was ever an alternate, to be honest with you. And like, I very selfishly wish that she could have been on 47. But the fact that she got her shot eventually is great. And on tonight's episode, I think, again, she wasn't really the main character like she quite was last week, but she was so good. She was so good this episode in terms of her reads, in terms of how she decided to move through this very precarious situation of being split off into a 5-person tribe. And thankfully she came into this for her sake in a very powerful position, in a very advantageous, insulated position. But she kind of started off this episode pretty gung-ho, right? She was like, I just got Nate out. I want to get Savannah out now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start making Savannah feel uncomfortable. That, to me, is not great Survivor gameplay. Like, it's kind of like, just let people vote themselves out of the game, essentially. You know, like, if somebody has a target on their back, let them grow that target. You don't need to lean on them for that to happen, especially somebody like Savannah. But then she gets into this, you know, new voting block of 5 people, eventually 6 when Savannah joins, and she pivots off of that. And not necessarily in Savannah's case because she was immune, but she pivots off this, like, I'm calling shots here. It was kind of like, information is floating to me, and I'm just going to go with the water. Wherever the water's going, I'm going to go. And to be able to come off of the high of flipping on your original tribe, successfully executing a blindside on a power player like Nate, turning the game over on Sophie, Savannah, and Rizzo. Like all of these things that she accomplished flawlessly, to then be able to kind of calm yourself down and be like, you know what? Like, this is a weird, unpredictable situation. I'm not going to be the center of this. Let information come to me. Let it go away from me. And wherever the votes go, I'm just going to flow with it. And she ended up voting tonight with the people that she's seeking to get out in Rizzo and Savannah. She voted alongside them tonight when she really didn't want to do that at the beginning of the episode. That's survivor maturity.
Yes.
That's survivor presence. That's knowing where you're at in this specific night and knowing, and I think that this is something that a lot of people kind of in life, but, you know, for the purposes of this conversation, survivor struggle with, that I think people think that, like, whatever they're doing, wherever they're at, whoever they're voting with, like, that's who I'm with for the rest of the game. You know, like, this is the thing I'm doing now, and this is where I'm going to be forever. But Sage has a very good way of being like, this is what I'm doing right now.
Right.
And whatever happens at the next tribal could be radically different than what I'm doing now. She completely lied and blindsided and stabbed in the back Nate, Rizzo, Sophie, and Savannah. And tonight, like, she's like, oh, we're voting with them to get MC out. Cool. Done. Let's do it. Like, that is very difficult to do. And yet she has now done it multiple times throughout this season with, like, just such gusto and such ease.
Yeah.
And like, that is the hallmark of a great survivor player, on top of all the entertaining aspects of her that I talked about. So we ended up getting to tribal, and Sophie comes out and says it in classic Sophie fashion. She loves to just come out and say it, right? She says that it's either me or MC going tonight, which, again, for her to be opening tribal with that versus where they started after the challenge is just so mind-boggling. Like, the power swing is just so extreme. And she says, you know what, either me or MC are going home tonight. And that's just what it is. And Jeff is, oh my God, wow. And we kind of get into this conversation of, like, how that came about. And Sophie makes her case and MC makes her case. And then we get into our first live tribal of the season. And Wayne, what's your take on live tribals? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Are you indifferent?
I love them. I think every tribal should be live. We don't have live tribals because you can't hide when there's 4 people out there. You can't, like, go off and whisper because there's only Jeff and 2 other people. They can hear. You can't whisper quite enough. You have to walk so far away to actually, like, you can't have live tribals unless you have a certain amount of people really there. So I love it. I think you should be playing the game up until Jeff says, okay, everybody, we actually have to go vote now. Like, now you have no more talk. Like, every tribal, it should be people, you know, twittering around and all that stuff. I understand why it's probably people don't like it, because you don't always catch whatever. Like tonight, there was a lot we don't know. We have no idea what's said. They didn't caption it. We don't know
and
how
Bobby,
it all fell out.
In there's a moment where MC goes to Joanne in the live tribal and says, I have one more big ask for you. And then they don't show us what that big ask was. What do you think that was?
I think for me, I think the whole thing of the ask was, hey, I will give you whatever information about Hina. I will give you whatever you need in this game. I know who has idols. It might be complete bullshit. I think that's why we didn't get to see more of it, because she was probably just spewing stuff to try to get saved. But I think that with the live tribal, like Wayne said, at a 5-person tribal council, it really is like there's no place to hide, where it's already set in stone that majority of the time, right? Like, I'd say 80% of the time, nothing changes at tribal council. They get up, they act like something's going to happen. They kind of talk, everyone mixes and mingles, but 80% of the time it stays the same, because at that point it's just too risky. And then 2, when it does happen, that slim 20% that I would say happens more on Australian Survivor than it does on US Survivor, then it's completely a shit show and everything goes haywire. But that's usually with, like, an idol involved. Something happens in that thing. But I agree with Wayne's point. I wish we could have a live tribal every tribal council. Do it at the first merge vote. It'd be great. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
One last thing, because I didn't get to say it earlier, to piggyback off of what Teeny said, and we'll go back to what you guys were saying here. I just wanted to make sure I get this in there. the whole thing about Sage with Juwan, I think that it's a marriage of convenience, right? I don't think Sage ever intended to fully work with Juwan, but it's a marriage of convenience. And Sage is so savvy enough in the gameplay, and we kind of praised her all episode, but she's savvy enough to realize that she needs Juwan for this marriage of convenience to get further in the game. And also, Juwan is so much more of the vocal, I'm going to get targeted first before Sage does, that it's such a benefit for her to have him on her side working with her. And she has Steven too. Let's not forget about that. Like that trio is a thing. They have an alliance name behind it. So for her to let Juwan kind of take the lead in this scenario, in this small tribal where it's like, I'm going to step back and let you do your thing. And if you think this person's throwing out your name, great. Whenever this gets back to the other people we're working with, you're the one who was threatened, not me. I just did what everyone else was doing. But I didn't want to take away from what we were talking about on Tribal Council. I just wanted to get that out there because I thought, like you said, Gabe, that was very savvy.
No, for sure. And as we wrap this thing up here, Teeny, what are your thoughts on MC as a player? Is this somebody you enjoyed seeing? You know, how would you characterize MC's game and as a survivor?
I think MC was like a really classic survivor contestant insofar as she was strong. She was obviously impressive in challenges. She had a wonderful pre-merge, was very insulated and connected, but ultimately fell short because, one, we didn't get a chance to see enough of her gameplay flourish because she didn't go to tribal too much. And two, where I stand on MC is I think there was a bit of just inexperience in the fundamentals of Survivor. And when you were talking about Sage, I think what we see there is somebody who has a very, very core foundation of the Survivor fundamentals and the patience to know when to make a move and the originality and realness to like stay true to herself all throughout while doing it, and to be honest with us about everything she feels in the game when she's happy about something and when she's not. And sorry, I know the question was about MC. My mind's still on Sage. I'm just obsessed. But I don't know. I think MC with a bit more time soaking in the true fundamentals of Survivor could make a really impressive player and is a really, really prime person who anyone would want to work with. But I just think the way that the cards shook out this season, she had few opportunities to get some play in and some momentum under her feet and some real efficacy in her own ability to pivot and to position herself. And when she finally got the time to try it, it was a little bit sloppy and then ultimately too late. And it's sad to see because I thought she was fun. And again, I do think she has the potential to be a great player. But when you're playing with people who are doing 4D chess, such as Rizzo, who is holding onto this idol, and sees Savannah, knows she has an advantage, you're just a little bit out of your depth at a certain point. And that's kind of
so MC was the alternate, right? She was one of the two alternates. So I think that's got to play a lot into it. Is that like, I can't imagine look at Sage. She was an alternate on 47. So would she just live in Fiji for like a year until she finally got to play Survivor? Like, what do they keep flying her back and forth? Was she an alternate on 48 as well? Or
no, She was an alternate on 47, flew back to the United States, and then a year later
they cast her on 49. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so like MC is like, I think being the alternate, you're going out there like, I'm an alternate on Survivor. Like, I'm ready, but you're not ready. And then they kick the other two off and now you're playing. I think she's the perfect candidate. I think, Teeny, you were saying this without saying it, for a second chance season. Like, she is like the perfect candidate, like a strong player, classic Survivor player, a little bit like immature in the Survivor gameplay, can come back and watch this, hopefully learn from other gameplay and come back and like really play a strong game, a second chance. Like, she's the type of player that should have a second chance season because she made one pretty critical mistake, I think, and that was including Jawan in this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I was a huge fan of MC. I think that, she never went to tribal until we got to the merge, which sucks. And I think that we would have really benefited if we got to see more of her pre-merge game. Because I really liked what we saw from her in the pre-merge. I loved when she was brought in as the bottom member of the 4 majority on Hina, and then decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go rat on you guys to the person you want to get out and try to start an alliance with her. Like that's what I did on Tuku. And so I have a lot of respect for that, when she played her idol at the merge, I have a lot of respect for that too. Because the 2 most dangerous tribal councils you're going to have are the very first one you go to in pre-merge and the very first merge at tribal. Because that's when you don't know who's telling the truth and who's lying, because it's the first time you've played with the people who you're with. So I love the philosophy of playing an idol, to just get everybody's cards out there and get a free pass to see who's lying and who's telling the truth. So I saw a lot of overlap in myself and MC in terms of just some philosophies and some moves that she made. But I do agree with the point that I think she is somebody who probably got outplayed by people who just knew the game a bit better than her.
Yeah.
And I think that's an archetype that we're seeing more and more in the new era of Survivor. So I think that there's a lot of positive. I think she has a lot of raw talent and ability, both socially and physically. But I think that she just needed a bit more Survivor crash course to know when it's time to kind of recoil, when it's time to show yourself, when it's time to shut up, when it's time to spill information. And that balance, it's difficult. It's hard even for people who do know the game very well. So it's even more difficult, not only for people who don't know the game very well, but are playing against people who are really proper students of the game. Bobby, what did you make of MC?
I mean, I liked MC. I thought MC was a strong player. I thought MC was a lot of fun. I wish we would have got to see more of old Hina when it was old Hina, because then I think we would have got a little bit more character development. That's the problem when you have a disaster tribe where they take up the majority of the, preseason or the early season screen time. But I think that for MC to get as far as she did, when obviously she was new to this game, new to Survivor, I think it says a lot about her and her gameplay. I think, like you guys have all said, we've kind of reiterated, it's just a tough situation, and she thought she was doing the right move and it backfired. And that's, we can say that about countless other survivors that have played this game that had knowledge about this game. And it just sometimes it doesn't work in your favor. Let's be real. Survivor, there's a lot of it that's about luck. Yes, some of it is strategic, some of it is how you set yourself up, but some of it's just getting lucky too by getting there to the end. So the fact that she got as far as she did, all the credit to her, and being someone who was not a recruit, but someone new to Survivor, someone who thought they were an alternate and then came on at the last second. I give her a lot of props, and she played very well. One last thing I want to ask you two from Survivor 47. If Sage would have been cast, and let's say she's not replacing anyone, what tribe do you think she would have done the best with?
Wow.
Bravo.
Bravo?
Yes.
Put away what you know now, though. You know now what you've seen.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, I literally found out Sage was an alternate and snuck into her tent and wrote her a note because that's how good I felt about her.
Really?
Pregame.
I didn't know that.
You did it?
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
I snuck into. This isn't going to get into the powers that be, but yeah, I found out she was an alternate. I knew she was going home and not playing the game, and so I found time during the day and I wrote her a note being like, I have felt such a kinship to you this entire time. You've made me feel so safe, and I wish that I was playing with you, and I'm rooting for you. Please find me after this. And I snuck into her tent and I left it there. And then when I got out of the game, I checked my suitcase and I had a note from her.
Whoa.
Wow.
So she was the person who I literally felt, and she sat closest to me. So we spent a lot of time right in proximity to each other. But from the minute I saw the season 47 cast for the first time, she was the very first person who I felt really connected to and really okay, this is what I was expecting from the pregame, is this kind of thing with people. And you were the first example, Gabe, who I did not famously, you did not give me much. And then I saw her and she was so warm and laughed at similar things to me. And so I say Lavo just because I know that I had very strong feelings about wanting to work with her. I think that Saul would have been really keen to work with her. I think that her and Asia would have gotten along well.
And I think she would have. I think she would have benefited from being on a tribe with somebody like Rome, because like that's the lightning rod. And I feel like she was kind of that on her tribe. And to have somebody else who would like so easily take that from her, I think it would help her even more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Interesting.
What do you think about her on Tuku, Game?
I think I really would have wanted to work with her on Tuku. I think that I would have gone to her before I went to Caroline. Sue always won one. That is always my number one ally. I would always go to Sue in any universe, in any season of Survivor. I am always going to Sue Smay first to be my number one ally. But I think if she was on Tuku, and even if Caroline was there too, I think I would have gone to Sage first, because I wanted to like gather those outsiders. That was my goal. I wanted to gather those outsiders, and I wanted that to be my alliance. So I think she would have done quite well on Tuku because of that. I think she would have been, the power alliance with me and Sue, and I think Caroline still would have been a part of that. Gata, I don't think she would have done very well on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how she fits in on Gata. Yeah,
I think it would have looked a lot like her time on Uli in this season.
Yeah, same.
You know, because Uli was kind of the cool kids tribe of 49, and Gata was the cool kids tribe of 47.
Yeah.
And I think she would have found herself in a very similar position. Agreed. But I think she would have fared well on Tuku and Lavo for different reasons. I think she would have fit in great on Lavo. Yeah. And I think on Tuku, she would have been a part of the plans that made it to the merge. You know, is kind of the way I put
Perfect read, Gabe. Perfect read.
Any last notes on episode 8 of season 49 of Survivor, or should we wrap this up?
No, I thought it was great. I'm still waiting for this like mind-blowing gameplay. I think Rizzo kind of, showed a little bit of it. This episode.
I like I said, Riz God was born tonight for me. He was
Riz
so
God.
RIZGOD, baby. He was born tonight.
I think we're at the point where it's like kind of fun to do this. Anyone got a winner pick? Like who they think, not who they want, just watching. Just curious if anyone's got one.
Mine doesn't change. Sage, mine doesn't change. Mine's always been Soph.
RIZGOD, baby.
Riz God, baby.
Legend, Riz God.
Ooh, let's get it.
Teeny, thank you so much for joining us. This was so much fun. You are the absolute best. When we get our special guest on, I promise you will be on with us again to make that happen. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So much fun for Bobby, for Teeny, for Wayne. This has been the Reality After Show recap in season 49 of Survivor, folks. We'll see you next week. Bobby, get us out of here.